Hello, people of Connecticut. I am Selena Rifkin, and I am here with Mr. John Anderson, and we are Connecticut Common Sense. And we are going to be talking about a couple different things today, including the bills that are going through the legislature tomorrow, not to mention the vast array of them. And John's got some stuff he's been going through that he wanted to share, which I think will be relevant for you guys.
Yeah. Do you want me to start with that or we want to
Yeah, why
get
don't you lead with that?
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, it sounds more embarrassing than anything else, and maybe I'm just whining a little bit, but my wife and I sold our business last April and decided to go and get our MBAs with some of the money that we got. And over the last like probably 2 months, I've been applying to jobs left and right, and I know she's been doing it a lot longer. And we seem to just get automated rejection emails everywhere we look, every job we apply to, with nobody reaching out to tell us what's going on. And I know realistically, they're not going to reach out to every applicant and tell them why they're not getting selected. But it's just very defeating to get all these automatic rejections at like 2, 3 in the morning. And I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know what is bad about my resume or why they're going in the direction that they're going. It turns out that the more research I've done on this, the more I've realized that a lot of these jobs aren't even real jobs. These companies are posting jobs that have already been filled, and they're only posting them externally to meet a legal requirement that says that they have to post jobs.
Oh, that is
Um,
just so bizarre.
it is, and especially when I read on their website that they are an equal opportunity employer, but they're not actually hiring from outside, which tells me you're not an equal opportunity employer. You're only promoting from within. And that to me seems like it's not legal, especially in the state of Connecticut. And I don't want to bring up the industry, but I will say that it is the largest industry in Connecticut.
Hmm.
You could probably figure that out. And it is one of the most impactful financial industries in the world. And it has been around since the early 1800s, thanks to Benjamin Franklin. Now, saying that, you probably have an idea of which companies I'm talking about. There's only so many in Connecticut. And it's not just those companies, but it's also some of the other companies that I've noticed this for. I've gone through, there's this thing called ATS, which I believe is automated tracking system, which is the software that a lot of companies use for applications. And you've got to write your resume in such a specific way that it gets through the ATS software.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah,
And
and it's like
that's like trying to deal with an algorithm on social media when you don't
e-
know what the damn rules are.
exactly, exactly. So everybody's like, "Oh, you just have to redo your resume for every application you do." And it's like that is the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard. Like, who has the time? And they're saying it's a full-time job to get a job, but like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
It just seems more like all these jobs are what's called a ghost job. They're maybe real jobs, but they're not real jobs for me and you. They're real jobs for people that are already at the companies,
Right.
or it's just the board at these companies and stockholders want to see that these companies are growing, so they just post a bunch of different jobs on social media to say that, hey, look, we're growing. See all these jobs we have posted, but then they don't actually fill them.
Mm.
Um, it it's weird. I've talked to only one recruiter. She was the VP of recruiting at a company in Hartford, and she basically said, "Well, right now it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know." And it's like, well, that's just ridiculous.
That's great.
We're we're in an age of AI and innovation, and I am specializing in AI and innovation. I'm probably more qualified than 99.9% of applications or applicants out there right now in the state of Connecticut, and I'm getting rejected for AI positions, which is like I know these people aren't specialists in AI because I can see what they're posting in the jobs, and it's like this is not AI. This is like completely polar opposite of what the AI will actually do for you. So I'm like, I know I'm qualified because I can see it in these posts that they don't know what they're talking about. So
God.
um,
Are you sure you want to work for these companies now?
I do because I want to fix it, and they pay quite a bit of money.
Mm.
And I have what's annoying is I've been in my industry for probably 14 years at
Mhm.
an executive level. So it's not like I'm some kind of beginning person out of college,
Mhm.
I've been around the block. I've made some pretty nice decisions. I've had a lot of respect granted towards me in the industry across several different companies that I've worked
Respect of
with.
your peers, not
Exactly,
the respect of
exactly.
your peers.
And I've reached out to a couple of my peers, and my wife has as well, and they're basically saying, "Oh, they prefer to promote from within, and maybe you should start at this level, which is an entry level position." And it's like we are halfway through our MBA programs. We both have bachelor's degrees, and
Mhm.
we've got plenty of experience. And you're telling me that you want us to start at an entry level position at a corporation? So that's just not realistic for where we are right now. And I don't know if other people are experiencing this. I'm assuming they are. But now we've got people that are recruiters that don't work for companies that are reaching out and trying to get me to pay them to find me a job. And it's like, what kind of world do we live in right now where this is what it's come to for finding a job, where I have to pay to get paid? It
Hmm.
just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It's like the flapper system in it was Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels, where
Mm.
I can't remember which one it was, where if you wanted to talk to somebody, they had what's called a flapper. And it was like you had to get through that person. It was like their secretary or something. And the
Yep.
secretaries, the flappers would have flappers, and it's like this whole system. So it's flapper
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like gatekeeper on top of gatekeeper.
Yeah, except
And
they charge. It isn't just that you gotta like convince them. They want you to give them money.
right. Right. It's a tax, right? And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't realize how important LinkedIn was
Mhm.
for the last couple of years because I've owned my own business. I haven't really had to use a lot of this
Mhm.
stuff that's out there right now. So, yeah, I've had LinkedIn, but I never like used it to make connections because I'm like I already have connections for what I need in
Right.
the real world. Why do I care if people see who I'm connected to online? It just didn't make any sense from a privacy standpoint. And now I'm realizing, like, shit, for the last 10 years, I probably should have been adding all of these
Oh my
people
God.
so that when I apply to these companies, that they see that I'm connected to people at their company. And I'm not one to like ask favors anyway, so it's not like I'm gonna go to them and say, "Hey, can you talk to the recruiter or the hiring manager for me?" Because I think that's as much as they say it's not what you know is who you know. That to me, it's like it's just I don't know. It feels like charity, and it feels like I'm gonna owe somebody something,
Hmm.
and I'd rather just get hired based off of my merits and
Yeah. And it
achievements.
sounds like that's not actually what they're looking at right now.
Right, right. And then even
It's like
then,
DEI, but something else.
yeah,
It's like DEI, but who you know.
yeah. And and I've seen one company, which is named after a city, uh, and it's named after a capital city. That I've seen some people get hired and they post online, and I look at them and it's for a job that I applied to, and I'm like, there's no fucking way this person is more qualified than I am. They are ancient as all hell, and they are coming from a completely unrelated field at an unrelated organization to come into an insurance situation. So we'll just tell you it's an insurance company, and they don't look the part, and they clearly, based off of their LinkedIn, don't have the experience to justify them getting hired over somebody like me. And again, this I'm not trying to be petty. I'm just looking at the facts of what their applications are and what they're looking for, and then I compare it to the person that gets the job, and it's like, why am I not getting it? And it turns out a lot of these people are women, and they are non-white women. And to me, I joked with my wife. I said, you've probably got an upper hand because you're a woman, and I've got it going hard for me because I'm a white male, and it seems white males are not getting hired anywhere unless it's a really old school company and they're looking based off of the talent on the resume and they're actually reaching out to them. So I've applied to a couple traditional quote unquote companies and I haven't heard back from them yet, but something tells me I'm going to have better experience at a traditional company than I am at one of these companies that is pushing this. We're
Yeah.
an equal opportunity employer. Because to me, equal opportunity, I thought that was basically banned by the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
What,
Well, I guess we're back to DEI. So
yeah,
sounds like
but
that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, and all these voluntary, like, I don't know if you've applied for any place recently, but they've got these quote unquote voluntary disclosures. There's nothing voluntary about them. You have to fill it out to get
Wow.
through. And to me,
Wow.
it's an involuntary, and it wants my race, my sex, whether I'm a veteran, whether I have any disabilities and all this stuff. And I
Yeah.
don't want to lie, but you know what? I'm considering checking some boxes off just to see if it'll actually do anything.
You may be at the point where an experiment is in order.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because
So, because if once you know that what you're doing isn't working, then it's time to do something else.
yeah, yeah. And the Supreme Court has said that you can't do this for admissions.
Mhm.
It's basically it's not American to do this.
Mhm.
And for companies to promote this equal opportunity employer, and they're basing it off of the law. And it's like, but the law says that you can't hire based off of race or sex or anything like that. So
Mhm.
why are you doing this? And why is it that if you're gonna hire these people from the external, you're only looking at this small pool that fit your woke agenda? And to me, my industry is not a woke agenda industry. We are one of the oldest and more traditional industries in the country.
Mhm.
And I've never run into people that have been super liberal or even liberal in the slightest at these companies. It's always been conservative people because
Mhm.
you have to make conservative decisions
Right.
in a
You want to stay
risk-based.
in business.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think it's these HR people are really pushing, and HR people always seem to be more liberal. And
I've heard that. Hasn't,
yeah.
I do not have experience in hunting for jobs, not since I was in my 20s. Uh,
Mhm,
personally, I have been self-employed or I have been, doing massage therapy, which I work for a very conservative chiropractor and I have for over 10 years. And,
mhm.
you know, and I'm a housewife. I'm a very educated housewife, but I'm basically
Right.
a housewife. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm actually quite proud of that. So, and I do, construction and, but all of those are very conservative fields,
Mhm.
because, you swinging a hammer, you swinging a hammer. And actually, I use a drill because I stink with a hammer. My aim is horrible. I can't do it without bending the damn nail. It's just,
Yeah. No,
um,
I hear you.
yeah. So this is all news to me. Very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just my frustration, but I'm a triple major MBA student, which means I'm going after three different certificates, which
You
is
madman.
not so, it's not something people typically go after. They either go after one certificate or just a general MBA. Not only that, but I had a 4.0 undergraduate GPA and I'm above a 3.7 GPA in the MBA program, which is a much more rigorous program. So to me, it's not that I'm not qualified or not talented. There's got to be something else that is driving these businesses away from me or these organizations away from me, and I just don't know what it is. So logically, I have to start looking on LinkedIn, and when I see what I'm seeing, it's like this is some crazy nonsense where if I'm not going to say I'm better than other people, but I think most people that know me have basically said that I'm one of the smartest people that they know
Mhm.
personally, and that there's no reason I should be struggling this way. And from a depression and anxiety standpoint, it's messing up my confidence when I wake up to more rejections,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I don't know why.
that'll do it. That'll
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. So, oh well, we can move on. I could talk all about this, but
Well, we were actually hoping to have Pastor Jake Dell on today, but he is insanely busy because tomorrow there is going to be, you guys should know that there is going to be a big protest up at the Capitol because they are running through three bills. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how much what they're doing in our, we have a supermajority of Democrats in Connecticut. We've had that supermajority since 2017. Whether or not these people were actually elected, there's always that question. And we can talk about electoral, voter integrity. And I can go on about that the way you can go on about this job thing, but I'm not going to do that today. Um, but what's happening is we have a Democrat supermajority, and the number of bills that they want to put through the legislature is, I mean, it's crazy. And no normal human being can keep up with all of these bills.
Hmm.
And as responsible citizens, should we not be knowing what's going on and be able to comment on it? Because this has to do with how we live our lives. Now, just tomorrow, and then I'm going to get into the specific bills that need to be addressed. There are, I think, there are 18 bills being heard, 18 bills being heard tomorrow by the Planning and Development Committee. 18. That does
Jeez.
not include the Health Committee or the Education Committee, which are the ones that Pastor Dell is paying attention to.
Hmm.
Um, so there's three bills here. Two of them are the same wording. One is going through the House and one is going through the Senate. This is something that, and I imagine that other legislations, other states do this as well because it's just a tactic. Uh,
Hmm.
they really want one of these things to pass. And so what happens if you hear about one of them and you comment on it, they've still got the other one they can run through that, and then they can say, oh, it didn't get any public comment. So, we assumed everybody thought it was fine. Um, the Senate one was introduced, I can't remember which one of these two. So the Health Committee bill is, and I'm going to tell you the name of these. One is SB 540 and one is HB 5044. So what these do is it is taking the Commissioner of Health and giving the Commissioner of Health, which is one person, the power to dictate standards for vaccine mandates on both children and adults. There is an existing law that says that they can dictate standards for children. This one removes children from the calculation. So now that Commissioner of Health can dictate all of the vaccine standards. And there isn't, with some, I can't remember, I think it was last year, or it might have been 2024
Hmm.
when the state of Connecticut removed the religious exemption for vaccines, which means that if have your children in school, they must be vaccinated. And you and I had this conversation about vaccines, earlier on.
Yeah.
And, you certainly expressed some concerns. But what this does is it's moving the vaccines into we can demand that you take them as an adult. Now there's still something that says, well, you can refuse them from your doctor. But the other thing that concerns me is that the commissioner makes this decision based on the recommendations of several agencies, one of whom is the American, Pediatric Society. And they are well known for being funded by Big Pharma.
Right.
And that's just one of several agencies that the commissioner could use to make this decision. They're just specifically listed in the bill. Um, so what this does is it basically is removing your ability to say, no, I don't want vaccines. And we already have a problem with, making sure that our children don't have vaccines if we don't want them.
Hmm.
Effectively, if you don't want your kid to have vaccines, you have to homeschool. So this is what the other bill is about. The other bill in it's in the Education Committee. It's HB 5468. And I started reading this bill, and not until I got to like the bottom of the text, it was like it was deep in the text. So there is a provision in there that any parent who wants to withdraw their children from public school will be referred to DCF.
That's not freedom.
It is not. It also says that parents have to prove that they're sending their children to a non-public school, which effectively outlaws homeschooling. Um, so what they're doing is they're putting these things, they're kind of packaging them together. They're saying, okay, we can dictate whatever vaccines, you take, and
Hmm.
we're going to keep your children. We're going to make certain that your children get vaccinated, whatever, however you think about that. Because the
Yeah.
next thing that will happen is if you can find a non public school that will allow your children to be there without being vaccinated, first of all, you're going to pay for it out of your own pocket. And these things are
Hmm.
hardly ever cheap. And then, Connecticut did not sign on to the provision that the Department of Education, the federal Department of Education, they put up a provision where, states could say, "Hey, we're going to have an open season on how you want to do your kids' education. We can have real school choice." Connecticut has not signed on to that. Um, they have a deadline to do that, and I know that's coming up. I don't know exactly when it is. Um, so what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that everybody gets a shot, whether you want to or not. And never mind my body, my choice. That's just out the damn window.
Right.
So there is a big protest in Hartford tomorrow. So if y'all want to show up, that would be awesome. This will go up tonight. I know it's short notice. But that's what Pastor Jake Dell is working on, and that's why he's not here with us today. So I'm just trying to be his voice in this matter. And I also will be going up to Hartford tomorrow. And because I have friends who homeschool, and I'm wholly opposed to this vaccine mandate business. And the thing is that when they throw this many potential laws at us, how is anyone supposed to keep track? And I believe that this is deliberate.
Yeah. Well, did you see SB 438 proposed?
No, I didn't see that one. Gee, it fell through my cracks. Ooh,
So this one is introduced by the Labor and Public Employees Committee.
okay.
And it's got a requirement for staffing, which is a 1-to-2 ratio of manual to self-checkout lanes must be maintained, meaning for every two self-service machines, one employee should be staffed at one real register.
You know, I'm not actually like there's a whole conversation about that, the self-checkout lines, and a lot of people hate them.
Hmm.
I don't hate them because I'm a freaking isolationist. And
Right.
I don't mind being able to check my own stuff out. I'm really okay with that. And I understand why people hate it. I really do.
Hmm.
That being said, it's like, wow, could we be any more intrusive?
Yeah. Well, I don't mind self-checkout, but I use self-checkout if there's like maybe 10 or less items.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I'm going to a register, and I know that it's faster to go through self-checkout, but I'd rather wait in line and go see a person and have
Hmm.
them scan it because that's how lazy I am. But but I have an issue where the state is going to come in and say you need to hire people. Like that's not up to the state. The state should
Oh.
get out of business altogether. They already
Mhm.
increased minimum wage.
Yeah.
Now you're forcing minimum employee standards. Like that's ridiculous. Like
They've already driven how many businesses out of the state?
right. Right. And are they this is basically like, oh, we're a union, so let's extend our union to the rest of the state. And it's like no. I don't know who thinks that this is a good idea. I don't know where the information is on this. What, like, was there a study done? What did economists say? Nope. It's
I'm
just,
pretty sure
oh,
it was just, I have
yeah.
something I've been hearing, like, and this is just in the last couple of days, so I haven't had a chance to really investigate it, but it makes perfect sense. Is
Hmm.
that a lot of these laws, the ones, especially the ones that they're just showering down, and I'm sure that Connecticut isn't the only state where this is happening. They're just
Yep.
showering laws down. They're coming down from think tanks. Think tanks
Yeah.
funded by people who have way, 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 way more money than we do,
Yeah.
and who have
Lobbyists.
who have an agenda. Think tanks have an agenda. That's their
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. This, this is, I think, the most, I hate using the word communist or socialism. I think this is the most socialist thing I've ever seen.
Hmm.
If you because what they're going to do is I'm looking at it now. The violations could result in a civil penalty equivalent to a full day's wages for the highest paid retail clerk for each day the violation continues.
Wow. Oh
It
my
is
God.
supported by labor unions aiming to reduce employee workload, curb theft, and improve customer service. So let me get this right. You're trying to reduce workload. but at the same time, you're forcing companies to hire more people to get more work rather than reduce their workload by having people go through self-checkout.
Right.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And a lot of these bills that they've promoted that you've discussed are all counterintuitive and they're
Mhm.
all way too far reaching for any normal person. And
Mhm.
I can't stand it. Like self-checkout is such a pointless thing for people to complain about.
It
And
is.
they're
I
and they're
agree.
they're turning it into something that it shouldn't. Homeschooling is not that big of a deal. We have choices for a reason. What they're trying to do is basically say, if you're a Republican, you need to move away from here. You need to move out of Connecticut because if not, then you're going to deal with it and you're going to like it.
Right. And it ticks me off because this is a beautiful little state. It's, conveniently located, and they just want to turn it into something that it's never been. We were the
Right,
Constitution state. We certainly aren't now.
right, right.
You know,
All the
and then
blue
there's,
laws.
we could, I'm not even going to go into the whole, they have, and then they have like not one, but two new gun control laws going through the legislature right now, one of which is just completely stupid because it has to do with, and this is again, this is like all landed in my lap this morning. It was like, oh, yeah. Okay. Trying to keep track of all this. Just, it's not working.
Mhm.
Human-sized brain here. Okay. And again, this is the point. So one of these laws, it has to do with apparently you can put some kind of attachment on a Glock semi-automatic that will turn it into a fully automatic thing.
A bump stock,
Firearm.
I
No,
think
it's
they
no,
call.
this is not the bump stock. This is
Oh,
apparently something else.
oh,
Yeah, because this is handguns. This isn't a rifle.
huh.
So yeah, and it's a Glock. I don't think Glock even makes rifles. And it
No,
seems to be specific to the Glock. I don't know. Again, I haven't had time to do the darn research. Um, but it's already illegal on a federal level. So the state wants to throw something in, but they also want to, and this is a separate bill, they
no.
want to make any kind of sale of semi-automatic weapons that you could do this with illegal, which will basically drive every gun store out of the state,
Yeah,
which is what they
it's
want because they don't want us to be, they don't want anything having to do with the Second Amendment.
well,
Last time I checked, Connecticut was still part of the Union.
I I thought that it was pretty clear that the states did not have the ability to change the U.S. Constitution on a local level, and that every time they try to do that, it gets rejected by the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
And this
and
is
this
like,
will get rejected too.
but it's the whole, oh, it'll be clean
But
for a couple of years as it
right,
gets
exactly,
fought.
exactly. And all it's doing is they're I can only this is just what it looks like to me, and I'm speculating. But what it looks like to me is that the people on the top of the pile in Connecticut really want this state to have a certain shape and form,
Hmm.
and we ain't part of it. The
Right.
ordinary middle class people who are just trying to live their lives and who do not want to be told what to do have no part in this. They want people who are willing to just do what they tell them
Yeah.
and feed them money. So it's like it's looking to me like they're looking for control and
Hmm.
lots as much income as they can so that they can. I don't know what they're doing with all this money because dear gods, how much money do you need? I think
Right.
yeah, there was some psychological study somewhere where past a certain point, you don't actually get happier.
Yeah, I think it used to be $75,000 a year.
Yeah.
I,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
I
that sounds right.
I
That's
think it's higher now because money
probably.
doesn't go as far, but
Yeah. Well, because since it started, the Federal Reserve has, devalued the dollar 99%. So it probably is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Fed, that's what the funniest thing that we could possibly do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, uh, and on a national level, like we've lost our identity. I'm just gonna say it. Like whether you're a MAGA supporter or you're or somebody on the left, we have no identity as an American country anymore. Our states are divided towards the end goal. We no longer believe to ask what we can do for our country, not what we can do for ourselves. It seems like people care more about fighting and getting their way and throwing temper tantrums like they're children than they do about progressing forward as a society. And there's this theory that, oh, if you're a MAGA, you don't care in progressing the country. But it's like most of what we say is progressive ideology. You just don't like the way that we word things because we're not going to bow down to your woke social justice language. And really, it's we have to end the social justice bullshit, and then everybody will kind of see like, oh yeah, they want common sense stuff the same as we do. But that's not how they want it. The Democrats are continuously pushing this stuff down our throats, and the Republicans aren't doing a better job of saying that you guys we think the same. It's always I want to get re-voted for power,
Mm,
so I'm gonna say whatever I think my basis wants to hear.
mm.
And voters just are either completely locked in or they're completely checked out when it comes to this stuff. There,
Yeah.
there's truly no middle ground anymore.
Yeah, it's we need what we need is more citizen leadership. And
Yes.
I would like to see more of that. And and I do because it's in a place like Connecticut, which is it's not as blue as we've been led to believe.
Hmm.
And I trust I know the people who are examining the voter rolls and what that looks like. And they do not believe that the state is uniformly as blue as we are made out to be. But
Right.
that being said, we do need people to step up and become part of their RTCs because this is what frustrates me is, for example, and I'm gonna go national here. We're
Hmm.
gonna step out of Connecticut for a minute because the national view is very obvious on X. And so I swim around in that milieu quite a bit. And I try and stay focused on Connecticut, but what's going out there actually does matter to us.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm sure you know who James Woods is.
Yes, yes.
And he's one of the few Hollywood actors that have been, openly conservative for a number of years.
Hmm.
And bless him for it. Well, he's all ticked off now and has decided he's so disgusted with what the Republicans are doing on the national level that he isn't going to be a Republican anymore. So this is a choice that I see people making, and he just happens to be out there being very public about it. And what
Yeah.
frustrates me about it is when you have people who very publicly say, "Oh, I don't want to be involved in the Republicans anymore," and it's like, "I've been a Republican for 30 years." I'm like, okay, I've been a Republican for 10 months. No, no, 14 months ish.
Yeah, yeah.
14 months. I was libertarian before that.
Yeah.
So anything that happened in the Republican Party, I think I can legitimately not take responsibility for that specific piece. Now,
Hmm.
citizen, involvement, I was not involved, and I will say I was not involved. I wasn't involved in the Democrat Party. I tried to be involved in the Libertarian Party. Don't get me started. Um, Libertarians are, herding cats doesn't even come close to it. They're like worse Republican, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Um, so, but here's the thing. If you are angry with what's been happening to the Republican Party, were you involved in helping choose who was going to run? Were you a member of your local RTC? Were you on your, did you get yourself onto the state central committee so that you could vote on who was running? Were you in a leadership position where you could say, you know what? We want to go out and recruit Republicans. We want to get people involved.
Hmm.
Probably not, or we wouldn't be in this position right now.
And for the record, so people realize this, James Wood is from Rhode Island.
Oh, is he? I did not know
So,
that.
so him being a conservative, he sounds like a lot of conservatives from New England.
Okay.
And that should tell you
All right.
something
That
because
that
that's
does.
yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, because that's I mean, how can he not be a New England conservative based on the fact that he grew up here? He went to MIT,
Absolutely.
lived in Warwick, Rhode Island, went to Pilgrim High School out that way. I
Hmm.
mean, he was even on Family Guy, which is based out of New England, right? Um, a fictional town, but it
Sure.
still like there are so many conservatives that are in Hollywood from this area And
Wow.
you can't tell that they're conservative because they aren't as outspoken as somebody like James Wood
Hmm.
is.
Right.
But there are a lot more people in this area that are in Hollywood that are conservatives, and they sound liberal because they're putting on this whole facade. But
Right.
then when you look at it, it's like people like there's WWE's John Cena. He
Hmm.
is from Massachusetts,
Hmm.
and he has been anti-Trump, but everything he does, every movie he's in, it's like, are you really a liberal, or are because you play the conservative a little too well for me to believe that you're acting. Um, and there's a lot of them, and it just shows you like, yeah, we are New England has the biggest reach when it comes to politics in the country. We just don't realize it as normal everyday people because
We're
we are
busy being
being
normal everyday people.
right, right,
Busy being
right,
normal everyday people.
right. But like James Woods, I mean, I've been following him for years, and I've agreed with pretty much everything he said. And I'm not a fan of this war. I don't. I've
Hmm.
got personal reasons, but I don't think that everything I've seen from people that have been in the CIA and are retired, as well as other top agencies, have all said the same thing. The Israeli government has way too much influence over the US government right now. And that is causing a huge divide in the Republican Party, and they do not want to address that. But there are still a lot of people in the Republican Party that do not want to back Israel. Charlie Kirk did not want to back Israel.
Hmm.
There's McCain did not want to back Israel. There's so many politicians that have come out in the past and said we don't need to back Israel. Why are we getting ourselves involved in Israel's bullshit? Now it seems like we're leaning into it, and you're seeing a lot of people on the left that are anti-Israel as well. So it's like, so I think what's going to happen is a lot of the Republicans that are anti-Israel that have felt like Trump hasn't treated them the way that they thought he was going to are going to start to shift towards that left. So now it's no longer a MAGA versus left thing. It's we need a new party somewhere in the middle to
Hmm.
capture all these people that are, I don't want to say it's going to be the anti-Israel party, but that's kind of like what
I
the
hope
base
not.
foundation is going to be, which is these people that just generally don't agree with war in general
Hmm.
and
I
some of
think they
the
call that the
nonsense.
Libertarian Party.
It is. I think we're going to start to see.
Oh
I think
dear.
the Libertarian Party shit has always been there, but it just hasn't been as important of a voice because it's the basis for the libertarians, right? Like, do
Hmm.
whatever you want. We believe in freedom, so whatever you want to do, go do it. And in reality, like we need that more than anything else right now because that is more common sense than what we're dealing with. I don't think this Iran thing is going to be some 4 week escapade. I think it's going to somehow draw into us fighting other countries in the area and trying to expand influence for Israel. But none of our allies are supporting us in this, and that should say something.
Yeah.
I know nobody wants World War III, but are we doing this as a show to China and Russia not to mess with us? Because other than that, I really don't understand why why we just preemptively strike in Iran, and now they're refusing to tell us what we should be afraid of in America. Like Trump blocked telling agencies around the country what to look for, and they've got a list of, I think the DHS has a list of all these supercells that are like sleeper in the country, and they've got attacks that they know about that are scheduled to go off in the States. And Trump blocked the DHS from giving that out to local authority. So why? Why are we now? That's putting us more at risk than anything else. Like I know you're probably trying to say, oh, it's so you don't freak out and you don't have the fear, but it's like, but we already have the fear. Every time we do something like this where nobody likes it, we're already afraid of the repercussions in the country,
Hmm.
right? And by not telling local authorities can't warn us. Now it's like I don't even want to leave my house if that's the case. I know Hartford and Connecticut is probably not a spot that it really matters, but New York, 9/11, the amount of people that stood up on both sides of the aisle and said we cannot let this ever happen again. And now Trump is basically inviting this to happen by not letting local authorities get this information. It just blows my mind.
I think I'd have to see what he said because I hadn't heard anything about that. But let me give you a little bit different perspective on why we're probably there. Um, One of the things that the administration has been doing is slowly t there's various geographical choke points for oil shipping.
Sure.
And so that's one piece. Another piece is that Iran is implicated in some of the election fraud stuff,
Hmm.
because there's been a lot of electronic moving around of votes. And this is, as far as they can tell, is some of this stuff is actually global. A lot of it was coming out of Venezuela, but some of it was coming out of Iran too. So there's that.
Hmm.
Um, but there's the fact, I don't know if you ever there's a theory out there that the globalist agenda is basically coming out of Great Britain, and that there's a lot of moves that are happening to try and resist that
Right.
Trump administration. And I'm not sufficiently schooled to really go into detail about that.
Hmm.
But the fact that we basically have control of every geographical choke point that involves, ocean travel right
Hmm.
now, I don't feel too bad about that. I have to admit, I do not feel bad about that.
Right.
So,
No,
and
I mean,
there's one more thing is that um, I think we pretty much just scared the crap out of Russia and China because both of them have been selling munitions to Iran,
hmm,
and they just saw all of their stuff wiped out. I mean, I think,
yeah.
2 days ago I heard we had wiped out 90% of Iran's offensive capacity, which is, I'm also fine with that because I do remember 1979 when
Hmm.
when they toppled the Shah of Iran, and that was, yes, that was a total CIA action. That was
Right.
garbage that even happened. Um, and it's like that tells you just how far back this garbage is going. And I don't know how deeply we're involved in Israel. That being said, it's the only state in the region where women really have a lot of rights. And so from a female perspective, I'm like, and I'm married to a Jewish guy. So
Yeah.
pretty okay with
Yeah.
are they perfect? No.
Well,
Nobody
I
is.
I think there's a difference between being Jewish and being in the Israeli government, right? I think is what the
Well,
people have an issue with. It's
government.
the Israeli government that I have an issue with. It's the fact that our own CIA agents have been held and blackballed by the Mossad agents. We're to the point where the Mossad agents basically can kill US agents if they get in their way of accomplishing their agenda. And it's like that is
Any
ridiculous.
country.
It is ridiculous that our partner
Mm.
has attacked U.S. bases in the past. They attacked the boat in what was it, the 70s or 80s. They knew they were Americans and they attacked us anyway. This was a huge thing. Gets brought up all the time. It's the fact that Ben can fly directly to the U.S., bypass all security and go and talk to Congress and get a standing ovation. People see that and they're like, what the hell is going on? The CIA has complained. They're like, why is this guy getting past security checkpoints? No other leader is ever getting through Washington
That
by
is an
bypassing
interesting
security.
question. That's
And
an
and
interesting question.
and this is stuff that is brought up by conservatives on podcasts and in the news quite frequently. So it's not like I'm just talking out of my ass here. You can look it up. There's this guy, uh, I think it's John Kiritow. He went to jail for what he said about the CIA, and he's a former CIA agent. Now he just goes around and he's like talking freely. There's Navy SEALs that are talking about this. There's Rangers that are talking about this. There's former Secret Service that are talking about this. There is a serious issue with how much influence the Israeli government has on U.S. politics. They did the one state conference earlier in 2025, which we brought up on the podcast, which is people like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz went over to Israel along with like 300 other elected officials, and they spoke under a combined U.S. and Israeli flag, and it was to promote the one state philosophy, which is like Israel is not the US, the US is not Israel. We have a completely different idea of values and morals when it comes to leading. And I understand that the
Fair
Jewish
enough.
people feel like they're threatened and they have to survive and they're going to do what it takes to survive. And they're calling that the psychology of the Mossad is I will kill you because if I don't kill you, then I'm under the impression that you're going to kill me, which is why they do what they do. And it's admirable because they have been attacked for so long by numerous countries. And I mean, you talk about the Holocaust, and I get it, right? People are trying to extinguish the Jews. And I'm not a fan of the Muslims either because it seems like we back every Muslim group that then turns into a terrorist organization. And they're saying, oh, the Sunnis are celebrating that the current Iranian regime is out of order. Well, if you look at the Sunnis, the Hamas is a Sunni terrorist group.
Hmm.
So why is it that okay, this group isn't who we're mad at, it's the Sharias that we're mad at. It's like what are we doing here? They all do terrorist stuff. They all have their points where they want control, and all you're doing is fracturing it, and then it's going to be a new group that comes into power. And that's been going on for ages in the Middle East. So sure, we take out Iran now, but then the people are happy for 5 minutes. A new terrorist organization comes and steps into place, and then it's a cycle of restarting. And there's no real transfer of power or changes that are made that are going to affect Israel or the U.S. in that region. It's just an ongoing cycle.
See,
That's
I see it a little differently, and I actually maybe because I've been hanging out on X, I am somewhat optimistic, and I'm not going to say wildly because certainly the whole regime change thing hasn't gone well, but in theory that was also coming out of Britain. But
hmm
the reason that I'm optimistic about this, which I am, is that the Iranian people are at the end of their damn rope at this point, and they're like, we do not care. We will die. And you have to be pretty far along to say, no, we don't care. I mean, the regime itself
hmm
killed like, I don't know, it was thousands and thousands. I can't, I'm not
Yeah.
even sure how many people. Do you have any numbers for how many the regime killed since they started doing their demonstrations and stuff? I mean, it's like,
As of recently, I believe it's around 10,000 people that they've taken out.
okay, that was what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah.
I might be conflating that with some other numbers I've heard, but yeah, 10,000 sounds about right.
hmm
And so it's like if you're willing to just go out and if you're willing to just die rather than keep living in a regime, I think that there's some hope there in terms of their willingness to. It isn't like we're trying to take a bunch of disparate groups, tribes, which is what Afghanistan was. I mean,
Yeah.
Afghanistan completely, I don't even know, that was like just a group of tribes that were just like barely, in control of anything. There's no country identity there. Iran was Persia, and they do have a cultural identity. They
hmm
have traditional dances. They have, they actually have a traditional religion that Islam wiped out. They have like many local areas that Islam took over. They have traditional dress. Um, they do have these things and they do want them back. That seems to be pretty clear. They have the Shah of Iran's son, Pahlavi, I think his name is. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but he has said that he would be willing to assist in getting a self-governing situation in place. So I do see some good signs that suggest that this isn't the usual as when we went into Afghanistan. And Iran was something else too. Iraq was something else too, because the only reason Iraq was held together was because they had a brutal dictator in charge. I didn't
Right.
feel bad about him getting killed either, but it didn't go well,
No, yeah, I think
afterwards.
yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm just I grew up where Iraq had weapons of mass destruction and
Mm.
they never had weapons of mass
No, I
destruction.
I think that was potentially there was always bullshit.
Right. And that's where it's like I'm gonna continue to be skeptical of anything that we
We should
do
always be skeptical.
where they say, "Oh, Iran has this or Venezuela has that," when it's like, I want to see it. I
Mm,
want the proof that it's there.
right.
I don't want you to just tell me because we went down that path and we were in
That is true.
Afghanistan
That
for
is
far
completely
too
fair,
long.
John. That is
And
fair.
Iraq wasn't even the goal, right? It was Afghanistan that we had the
Yeah,
issue
that
with.
didn't make any sense to me either. It's like, oh, their house. I was like, what was that?
Yeah,
What
it
the
was.
heck was that? Yeah.
And then you see Bush on top of the aircraft carrier with the mission accomplished banner behind him, like that
Hey,
photo
hey,
op,
no,
like
no, nothing's been accomplished here. Just
right. If anything, so we went into Afghanistan as what a preemptive to get into Iraq, then why don't we just position it that way to begin with? And then it's like, oh, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, but really we all knew it was for oil, and now Iran has oil, so now everybody's under the assumption, well, it's probably for oil again. And then you see
yes.
the
And then
price of oil getting going down like I don't know if you saw yesterday, but oil jumped like $45 in price from the high to the low.
mm,
And there's fear that oil is going to continue to rise. I mean, Trump said it on his social media platform. So it just feels like this is Iraq all over again.
mm,
And they're just using different language, but it's the same exact story. It's the same exact
mm,
cycle to get us into conflict in the Middle East. And if we were so concerned about Iran, then why was there ever a plan for us to leave Iraq? We already had the weapons and the troops over there.
mm,
Why did we leave? That's what and any American should be questioning this. If we were already there, why did Trump want to leave in his first presidency? Biden did pull out, and now all of a sudden we want to go back into Iran. And I get it, it's a show of strength to say, hey, look, Russia, China, we don't even have to have a base in the area, and look what we're able to do. We can spot everything. That's just how good our intel is. I don't think those two countries are really scared of that,
mm,
especially when you see the news that Russia's got this new weapon that is basically a microwave weapon where
mm.
it's the size of a briefcase and you can set it off using a remote. And that's the thing that is causing, I don't know if you remember the Havana, Cuba incident a couple years ago when
No.
all the people at the US Embassy started having blood come from their ears and they were
Oh,
having
I hadn't
heart
heard about
attacks and
that.
stuff. Yeah, it's because this microwave device is something that the Russians created and it has come out that this is in fact a Russian
Yeah.
like weapon. So I think Russia's got their own weapons that we don't even know how to counter. China's got the same stuff, and as we all know, China rips off everything the U.S. does, and Russia just doesn't have the technology or the skills to get done what we have. So neither of these countries are really scared of us. They just don't want to piss us off. So they are willing to do everything they can to stay off the radar. And yeah, they do some questionable stuff, but at the end of the day is there really that much tension between Russia and China and the US? I don't think there is. I think it's just a whole lot of talk. And even troops that I've talked to, veterans, they all say, "Oh, China's the real threat," but in reality, they're never going to attack us because we are their economy. And which is true.
Yeah,
You
that
don't
is
bite
true.
the hand that feeds you.
Right. Yeah, that would be stupid.
Yeah. So I'm going to be skeptical. I understand what you're saying, but I just I have an issue that we bragged and Trump bragged about having this plan to pull everybody out of Iraq, and then you should have just left them in. It would have been a lot less expensive to have troops over there, or maybe that's what the plan was: remove them so that we didn't have casualties lost. I don't know. We've lost American lives. I'm not a fan of losing American lives, especially because I don't think anybody was active truly thought we were going to go to war. And I think that's part of why we had lost so many people from joining in the past. Because I don't know if you saw, but numbers for people in the army had dropped, or in the forces were dropped.
You know what, I hang out with I hang out with the martial arts people, and in fact, we're gonna have a fun guest next Tuesday, which I'm looking forward to. Um, and I think, and this is, if there's any military folk out there who would like to comment on this, we would welcome that.
Mhm.
Um, I suspect that the reason why the numbers in our military dropped so much was because people haven't been taking pride in being American. And
Right.
that certainly changed in the current administration. And recruitment is now they met their goals months early for 2025, like
That's good.
months and months early. It's just like, no, the military is suddenly filling back up again. There was also all this DEI stuff, and I don't know if you saw any pictures of the
Yeah.
military, yeah, the guys in the dog mask, and then
Yeah, the
trans
furry, and
thing.
then you had the trans man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
no.
I listened to a really interesting. This is we were just for the record, guys. We were talking about maybe doing a short one here because I really want to go outside in this beautiful weather, and here we are because this is what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not even blaming Jay. This
We
is
can wrap it up after this.
okay. We'll
Promise.
wrap it up after
Yeah.
this. I swear to God. Um, but I listened to a very interesting interview. It was done by Brett Weinstein, and they were interviewing a Black Hawk helicopter pilot who had gone through transition. And this is a person who was, an adult male who'd always very competent person because you're not flying Blackhawks
Hmm.
unless you are an extremely competent person. You've been through SEER school. SEER is a school that you go through. I can't remember. It's search evasion.
It's it's for the Marines.
It's for everybody who goes through, who has going to be flying a helicopter or an airplane. You have to do
Survival, evasion, resistance, and escape.
Thank you. And because I used to know somebody who taught at the Sears School up in Maine. And so what this is like if you are crashed behind enemy lines, you have to go through the school. It's like if you're
Yeah.
flying, you got to go through SEER. And so this person had gone through that. It's incredibly stressful because it's supposed to be because they're trying to be as realistic as possible about what's going to happen if you're captured. If you're a woman, you are getting simulated rape. They don't actually do penetration, but they put you through, they rip your pants down and do all that kind of stuff. So it is intended to stress you out so that you can figure out where your boundaries are, where your limits are. People wash out of this, they don't get through. It's like doing SEAL training. Some people
Hmm.
ring the bell. Um, so SEER school is something you have to get through. You have to figure out what your limits are. You have to have a strong psychology. So this person who had transitioned had already gone through this, and it was during SEER school that he realized that this was something he wanted to do. And of course, in the last few years, it's become extremely easy. I think it's not quite as easy now, one would hope.
I would hope not. I mean, that's like Ranger School, which is RASP.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean,
eh,
this is like you have to realistically train people as much as possible because if you're captured, they're not going to be nice to you. They're not.
yeah. And
So,
I know somebody that's gone through SEER and in Maine, and
mhm,
they will tell you the last thing is they will basically break your arm or something on you and
mhm,
drop you in the woods for 24 hours, and you
mhm,
have to get back to base
right.
within that 24-hour time frame. And it's not a quick like, oh, it's only a mile away. It's
Oh
you've got a
no. Oh,
broken bone and
all
you've
right.
got to figure everything out and get 20 to 50 miles back to base.
Yeah,
So it is serious, but yeah.
yeah. It's very serious. So this person had gone through and was being interviewed by Brett Weinstein, and this was before Pete Hegseth was put in his position
Mhm.
as um, Secretary of War, but then it was Secretary of Defense. Now he's Secretary of War. But it was interesting listening to the interview, and it was, and this guy was in the Air Force, which is a very different milieu than say the Army. These are very different milieus, even though it's all of our armed forces. The Air Force and Army intelligence tend toward more liberal.
Mhm.
It's that's just kind of the, and I get it. If you're on it's going to be different. I don't even want to go into why because I have some thoughts about that. And again, military folk, happy, please come and let us know what you think. But I couldn't, as much as this person, as much as he loved his job, as he loved flying, and how could it not be fun to fly a Black Hawk? How is that not
Right.
fun? And he was also, he could repair them and stuff because he was a mechanic before that. And he was talking about how, it's like you're losing some skills there. And then he said there's only 30% of it's a 70% of people, trans people in the military are just, there's no problem. And then my next thought is, well, what about that 30%?
Hmm.
Are we carrying 30% of people who are supposed to be defending, and is there a line there? The military does not have time to individually decide whether or not someone is okay. It
Hmm.
is intended as a group activity. You have to fit into the machine if you're in the military. And
Yeah.
there's sacrifices that are made for that. And if you can't fit into the machine, why are you there? Go
Right.
work for the CIA. Then you can be an individual and, then you can be a lone wolf.
Hmm.
That's where you go work for the CIA. But you
Yeah.
don't belong in the military if you need to be a unique flower.
Right.
So,
I
want to
agree.
respond to that?
No, I agree. It's just I think a lot of people were not joining, not necessarily because of the DEI stuff, but I think there was a time where people weren't joining because there was a real fear of war, and most people aren't going to join if there's a fear of war. It's once you're in and you've gone through it,
Hmm.
that's when they get excited over war
Hmm.
because they're bored doing what they're doing. And you can talk to people during, like in the early 2000s when we announced we were going into Afghanistan and Iraq, troops were happy because they were so bored and
Hmm.
they were itching to get into a war.
Hmm.
And then it became so long that people were like, I don't want to go over to Afghanistan. I don't want to go over to Iraq, so I'm not going to join. And that's and then the DEI stuff kind of comes through Biden, but our numbers were down for a lot longer than the DEI stuff, to be quite honest. And it was they were down under Trump, they were down under Obama, and it could have been DEI stuff under Obama. I don't recall ever hearing anything about that. And
Yeah,
as
yeah, that's worth looking at. Not that
I yeah, because
idea.
I don't think the trans stuff was even that big of a thing under Obama. I got way bigger
It,
under
well, it
Biden
started with the don't ask, don't tell thing with going back to,
with Clinton.
Clinton, and that was a
Yeah,
big deal for a while. I understand that is not a big deal now. Now it's,
yeah, yeah.
you know, just, keep it in your pants, whatever.
Hmm.
So, and don't be
Yeah.
swish because that's just annoying.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna support the troops no matter what. I don't always support the decisions that our government makes. Obviously, there's a reason. I
Hmm.
just wish that we had the truth and it was an obvious truth
Always
versus
want
having,
this.
yeah, versus having to read between the lines and
Hmm.
this is why conspiracy theories are always front and center is because we don't get the truth. If you get the truth, the conspiracies are going to be put to bed a lot easier, but it's also the way that the truth is delivered needs to be done in a way that it shows that it is the truth and not something that we feel we are
More
being PR'd.
propaganda. We've had
Exactly.
so much propaganda.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
and
It's
that's probably a good place to stop.
absolutely
So,
from our propaganda to everybody else's.
all right, my friend. I'll take us out here. God bless Connecticut. God bless America. We hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and I'll be back with Jason on Thursday with um, oh, we have, I believe Amy Chai is going to be on, who is our running for District 1.
Mhm.
And then next week, Jay and I have a special guest on who she is an instructor of Krav Maga, and we're going to talk about women and self-defense. So,
Nice.
and Jay,
Say hi to Dr. Chai for me. I
I
haven't seen
will.
her since the event a while back at
Okay.
the ranch, whatever it's called.
Cadillac Ranch.
Cadillac Ranch. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
she's a pretty cool lady, and we want her to win. I'm not in District 1, so best I can do is get her on the podcast. So,
Perfect.
all
Well,
right.
enjoy that weather.
Yeah, thank you. You too. I hope you can get outside and away from your
I
computer.
I will. I will.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.